So welcome everybody. I think I know all of you, and it's exciting to see your faces. We've missed everyone so much over the last year, but my name's Jon Bartlow, and I serve as the Director of Alumni and Constituent Relations. Excited to be with you this morning. Also on the call, we have Stephanie Sweezy, one of my colleagues here in the Alumni office, and Danielle Driskill. We're a small but mighty crew, and we're excited to be here with you this morning. We have Erica Martin from our development office on. Hi, Erica, thanks for being here. Kathleen Flannery, our Vice President for University Advancement, and my boss, and everyone's boss, and our president, and Pitt State alum, and our #1 gorilla, Dr. Steve Scott, has joined us this morning. And as I told him when we were getting ready for this, I said, in lieu of breakfast, you're the main course this morning, Dr. Scott. Everybody's here to hear from you. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Scott. And, certainly he's going to give us some updates. There's been no lack of things going on in the university world over the last year. I can imagine it's been the most challenging year Dr. Scott's ever seen. Just guessing on that. But certainly, if you have questions, there will be an opportunity to ask some questions. There is a chat function within Zoom, and so if you wanted to enter a question in the chat function, we can make sure that we ask that afterwards. But certainly, if you prefer asking in person, we can do that as well. I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody, just that way we don't have any background noise, and then I'll let Dr. Scott unmute himself, and we'll go ahead and get started with the university update.
All right, can everybody? You did mute me. Okay, so here we go. Good morning. You need to envision yourself on the back porch of the Crossan House, and the beautiful sun is in the air, blue skies. We've got some umbrellas up, and we're having the famous gorilla buffet of eggs and sausage and bacon and fruit. All kinds of pastries, and we're just slapping each other on the back and hugging and shaking hands, and life is great. That's what we're all headed for at some point. And this is, and I think you all know, this is always a very special alumni gathering for me, because as I look across the screen here, certainly I had Dr. Davis as a professor and Dr. Thomas as a professor, and worked with many of you. Juan and I went across China a couple years ago, spent a week in China together, and you really get to know someone when you travel with them. Bill Ivey and I have a history. I can always remember that when I interviewed Bill and offered him a job to oversee our registrar, financial assistance, and some of those student support services, I made him the offer. I told him the number, and he said, well, I was expecting a different number. And so I said, what were you expecting? Well, it was $2,000 less than I had offered him. And I said, well, I'm willing to split the difference if you are. So that's my math background, Bill. I don't know if you remember that, but that was kind of that was a fun moment, but just tells you about what a classy guy he is, and authentic, and just did a great job while he was here. I remember walking down the hall in Hughes Hall one day, and Bob Sheverbush was there, and my brother was in town. I think he worked at Walmart, you might remember that. And Bob had told me he had owned some Walmart stock, so I said, Lee, you need to go meet one of your shareholders. And Lee went down and said hi to Bob Sheverbush. While Lee was the CEO of Walmart, the stock price was just a dog. That's spoken like a brother. Bob, I hope you held on to that stock, because it's like $140 a share now, right? I hope you still got some of that. So just all kinds of connections to so many of you, and just very special connections in so many ways that have existed over a number of years. So I just want to say thanks for being here. And hola, Edme. So I want to practice my Spanish just a little bit as well. So great to see your face, and Chuck, haven't seen you in forever. So just a really neat thing. Wish we could be together, and at some point we will be together again. So here I go. There's nothing I like more than talking about Pittsburg State University. And one of the things that's so neat about it is every time I do an update, things are different. There's something new, there's something better, there's something improved, and clearly there's progress. And certainly in the pandemic, John's right. Never faced anything like this in our lives, of course. You may recall that I became president in 2009, and that was the moment of the Great Recession. So I've led the university out of the Great Recession and into a pandemic, and hopefully out of a pandemic, and some pretty interesting years in between. So just a little bit about kind of current status of the campus. You may be aware, those of you who live in town would be very aware of this, but we did bring the campus back to life in July. So we put people back in their offices. We de-densified the campus. That's a term we've used. Maybe not every office is fully staffed. Got some people working from home, certainly more than ever, because we just want to try to reduce the amount of opportunities for infection. 60% of our coursework this last fall was delivered online. This spring, we're right about 60% is delivered online as well. So when you walk across the campus, it doesn't have the same feel. We don't have as many students on the campus learning in a face-to-face environment. But our plans would be for this fall to return to mostly face-to-face instruction and really fire up student activities and sports and everything that you would typically see on a college campus. And right now, what we're thinking about every meeting that I'm involved in is, how do you walk out of this? And that's a phrase that Dr. Smith coined. We kind of walked our way into this a year ago, into the restrictions and the mitigation plans. Well, how do you start loosening those as we go forward? We've been pretty fortunate. We have such great support with our community partners that we were able to have a mass vaccination site on the campus, the first one of any Regents institution, where we inoculated or vaccinated 450 or so individuals who are employees, adjuncts, grad assistants, faculty, staff, and so on. And very exciting moment, because there are a lot of folks thinking, when will I ever get access to that vaccine? And so we were really excited that Community Health Center of Southeast Kansas stepped up and made that happen. And Dr. Holtzinger, your colleagues over at the Student Health Center, man, they have just been amazing over the last 12 months of leading us through the complexity of the health side of this and helping us define the mitigation strategies, and also working with the local partners in the hospitals and community health, Girard Hospital, and so on, to work our way through this. We meet every Monday morning, the leadership team does, and we decided this Monday that every meeting we have from now on, we're going to look back at the past year and say, what did we decide a year ago this week? So there'll be a moment where we'll say, oh, that was the week we decided to not have commencement. That was the week we froze travel. That was the week we froze positions. That was the week and it was very much a constriction or restriction. It was one after another after another. And I can remember at one moment at the end of a meeting, I said, gosh, is there anything left to cancel? We've just canceled everything. And those of you who are used to going to the theater on the campus or going to recitals or performances, you saw that happen as we just restricted access to, because we just couldn't come together. We didn't know enough initially about the virus and how it was even communicated. So I'd say, looking back, we have had enormous cooperation in the community. We've had enormous and just fantastic cooperation by our students, faculty, and staff with masks and the mitigation strategies we put in place. And because of that, we really have had a lot of successes. Our nursing pass rates have remained high. Our teacher licensing exam pass rates have remained high. We didn't cut the length of the semester in the fall or this spring. So we would argue that our student learning has continued, and we've made good progress for our students in terms of moving towards their academic goals, namely their commencements. So lots of success, lots of loss. We have had a number of faculty. We've had 2 faculty lose a spouse through COVID-19. We've had one employee die from COVID-19 after following a car wreck, and then contracted the virus of all things on top of the car wreck and the injuries he sustained there. So we've had that loss, but we've also had a coming together that's pretty special, that will serve us well in years ahead as we've responded to really what was a common enemy for all of us to live with it, and in some ways defeat it. So I met with our student body leaders yesterday. I found this interesting. They had both found access to, hang on just a second, I gotta do this. That's a good thing. There's sunshine outside. They're coming right in my window. But I met with a couple of student body leaders yesterday, and I asked them about vaccines. I wanted to know, how do your peers feel about vaccines? Well, these are 20-year-olds. They both had gotten their first shot. They were all in, and they had the resourcefulness to figure out how to get in and get their shots, and that was pretty cool to hear. So anyway, our efforts right now is how do we breathe complete life back into this campus, and how do we restore a fall semester like we would typically see in a fall semester. One of the things I want to talk about in terms, I want to back away from the campus kind of one step and talk about the Kansas Board of Regents. And you probably read some things, those of you local, about the Kansas Board of Regents. They're really focused right now on a couple of things, and one would be low enrollment programs. So you may have heard that we cut some programs. It's probably a little bit overstated. It's more like that we consolidated programs. We might have taken a chemistry education degree and a chemistry degree and pushed it into one degree, and chemistry education is an emphasis within it. I think the press took it as we were really reducing the number of options for our students. We'd say we did a little bit of trimming that satisfied the Board of Regents, but also still gave our students plenty of options and plenty of programs to take a look at. But the board's really concerned about efficiency. And, you know, those of you who've been around the board very many years, you know, this kind of comes and goes, but right now that's really on their mind. And secondly, the board passed a policy that allowed for flexibility in terminating tenured faculty. That was a pretty interesting proposal and policy they put in place. And within 24 hours, we released a statement that we wouldn't use the policy. We had no interest in the policy, and it didn't apply to Pittsburg State University. And that's just, that didn't make the board feel very good. But it's just because of and many of you have been involved in this over the years, Bob Roberts was involved. We have a really strong and very successful faculty union, and we work well with that group. And we have a contract that covers all the contingencies we need to cover. And so we basically pushed back with the board and said, just thanks for putting this out there, but we don't need it. The board was criticized across the country by all kinds of groups because of this policy. So you might have seen that. And those of you who held tenured faculty positions are probably bothered by what the board did, but hopefully you were encouraged by the response of the leadership of the campus. The other thing that the board's really focused on right now is deferred maintenance. And so there's a lot of interest in trying to make sure our buildings are staying up to date. And at Pittsburg State University, we probably have a backlog of about $90 million of work we need to do on this campus to bring our facilities up to where they need to be. Now, across the Regent system, that figures over $1 billion. And Bill is in Oklahoma, and Bill, you probably see that same kind of talk at the Regent system there and the various systems that they have. Maintaining our facilities is a challenge, there's no doubt. And the state's just backed away from building any buildings. And in fact, the state, meaning the legislature, is critical of us when we can attract, and some people on this very call, we attracted $36 million to the Bicknell Center to build that. The state didn't put a dime in it. But then the state will complain, the legislature will complain. Now we have to take care of it. It's like, my gosh, you've been gifted a $36 million building by private individuals. Don't you think the state could support it and repair it? But the state doesn't want to do that. So it's a very, very frustrating situation. So we've actually put aside money for the Bicknell to renovate and update the Bicknell. It's already 6 years old, believe it or not. So those are things that we've got to be looking ahead to take care of. But the board's really interested in deferred maintenance at this point in time. I'll come back and talk just a little bit more about that. On the funding side, our enrollment in the fall was down, about a little over 3%. The spring, it was down about the same amount. So, and then our retention from fall to spring was pretty much the same. We didn't lose more. I think the worry was that all the online courses in the fall, students would lose interest and not come back in the spring. I think the loss was more going into the fall rather than fall to spring. So our numbers in terms of applications for the fall look pretty good. Our housing numbers are right on track with last year, but I think there's just so much uncertainty. And for these kids that have been in high school, and many of them have still been learning remotely from home, we are hoping they really want a college experience. And they want to get out of their folks' basement or their second floor bedroom where they've been studying, and they want to go to a college and have an in-person experience. And that's what we want to be able to provide for them. So tuition is a big part of what we've got to be concerned about, and that is, about half of our general use budget. And so we're working hard to create the opportunities to serve a lot of students this fall, and we'll continue to focus on that. On the state funding side, and that's the other half of our general use budget, we get about $35 million from the state of Kansas. And so I don't know if you know this, but the legislature at times can just have some really wacky ideas. And I probably shouldn't say that, but I'm towards the end of my career, so I can say things like that. And I'll talk about that just in a minute too. But we're constantly under threat of reductions in our budget. And the governor, we thought she was an education governor. She's not. She's a K-12 governor. She came out and recommended a 5.5% cut in our budget, which is $2 million. And so I was called. A bunch of presidents were called to Topeka last week to testify, and I talked about the success that we've had over the last 12 months of serving students, serving this region, serving the community. And it was like a punch in the gut, and I said this out loud in the hearing. It was like a punch in the gut. Then at the end of that year, the governor offers a recommendation of a 5.5% budget cut. It's like, really? Are you serious? After all we've been through and the work that we've done? And to add insult to injury, she also swept $700,000 of some carry forward money we had for the Polymer Center and for school construction. Really irritating. And I did express that frustration. Before the hearing was over, we got word from the committee chair that he was going to restore $400,000 of what had been cut. And Juan, you'd like to hear this. We got a $1.6 million grant, needs a $400,000 match. And the governor had swept money we were going to use for the match. So by the time that hearing was over, we actually had restored $400,000. So it was a pretty good day. Another committee upstairs on Thursday decided that instead of cutting us $37 million, they were going to put $26 million back and only cut us $9 million. So we had a pretty good day last Thursday, but it is very, very iffy. And you've all heard that the Biden administration and Congress passed this latest stimulus bill. It has $40 billion for higher ed. 14 million could come to Pitt State. Well, you can imagine, those of you who follow the Kansas legislature, if they know we're getting 14 million, 7 of it's going to have to go to students in grants. 7 of it is for the university. Well, the Kansas legislature may say, we'll just reduce your allocation by 7 million. You can use the federal dollars. There are always a lot of moving parts in the spring with the legislature in session, enrollment taking place, pre-enrollment and so on. But this year is just on steroids. There are so many different things underway, and we don't know where it's going to turn out. On the short term, it's likely, because of stimulus money, we'll be in pretty good shape financially. What we're concerned about is there's swapping goes on. The state says you can use federal money instead of our money. We take a $7 million cut. And then in 2 or 3 years, we say, we need that 7 million back. And they say, what are you talking about? Why do you want to raise? No, we just want the money back that we had. So it's really it's quite a challenging set of environments, but actually I'm pretty optimistic that we'll navigate it, to tell you the truth, because there's a lot of money out there right now from the feds. So, and on the other side of that, Doug Ball, our CFO, has really done a great job of helping us manage our expenditure side. It's one thing on the revenue side to deal with that, but we've been really careful on the expenditure side. And you think about it, our faculty and staff can't travel right now. And national conferences aren't underway. Think about people on this screen right now, that how many times you went to a national conference and how important that conference was to you. There's hardly any of those going on. So our travel budgets have been really restricted, which is a good thing in many ways, because it helps us conserve cash and make sure we're in a better financial position going forward. So on the spending side, we've really managed things well. And then we just kind of hold our breath on the revenue side as we think about enrollment, what will happen, the questions there, and then what does the state do? There's lots of questions there as well. So, presidents always like to talk about capital projects, and I do as well. So first of all, I want to talk about McPherson. And how many of you think McPherson's your favorite building? It's the prettiest building on campus. No, I'm just kidding about that. It's a bizarre look. It looks like a spaceship, right? But the magic happens inside that building. And that is clearly one of the most successful programs we have on the campus. Nursing is. And the pass rates are extremely high. They're in 5 to 7% above the national average. And the grants that they've been writing over there, they're bringing in millions of dollars in grant money. And we had 3 individuals basically tour that building in a very short period of time and contact me separately about doing something for the nursing building to update it. And we raised $6 million, 3 people. I'm a really good fundraiser. I just answered the phone. That's the way I say that. And these folks are motivated, these 3 individuals. It's really coming through foundations, but it's 3 individuals that are behind it that wanted to do something very special within our nursing building. And you probably know over time, we've accumulated a number of simulators. So we have an infant, we have a newborn, we have a pregnant woman, we have a man, we have a toddler. We have all these different simulators. Well, we're going to build what in essence is a simulation hospital within that building. It'll be an expansion of the building. And so you'll be able to walk into it and you just feel like you're in a hospital. And you'll be able to go into a room and there will be one of the simulators. And so then there'll be observation areas and areas where you control the software and manage the experience of the students. But it really expands the clinical experience for our students through the use of technology. And as we try to prepare more and more nurses, you're going to run out of clinical space at some point. And I'll tell you, our nurses are in high demand. It's a pretty exciting situation to have. But 3 individuals, $6 million project that we've already chosen the architect. They're working on the design. The construction company will be determined in the next couple of weeks. And then we would hope to break ground this fall on that building. But Joan Shepherd-Bush, I think you taught in that program for years, and it's an outstanding program. And so appreciate the work you did there. And people there now are building on what's been happening in the past. And it's just got a stellar reputation. And it's so deserving to see a group like that rewarded with that kind of support. I want to talk about Terry Mendenhall's favorite project, and that would be the Kels College of Business. And that project has taken us a little while to raise the money. And if you think about it from a fundraising standpoint, when you raise money for the arts, there's lots and lots of people who want to be involved. There's over 600 donors in the Bicknell Center. When you raise money for athletics, it's typically a pretty small number of people, but large gifts. And then when you move to a particular college within the university, you kind of narrow the number of folks that might be interested in a particular facility like the College of Business. So I don't think it's a surprise that it took a little bit longer to get ourselves to a position where we could build that, do that project. But if you recall, Kels College of Business is really the old College High. And I think I'm the only president ever to serve at Pittsburg State University who played basketball in that building, because I played for Baxter Springs and we played against College High. And Barbara would have had an office over there about where I played basketball. And the dressing rooms were downstairs there, believe it or not. So that building served us well, but we have an architectural plan, construction documents, all the way construction documents to transform that building into a modern business building. It's really an amazing design. And we have about $7 million we've raised. Because we have this fund called the Education Building Fund. It's also called R&R, Repair and Rehabilitation. It's when we can go in and really gut and rebuild educational spaces. You can't use it on presidents' houses. You can't use it on athletic facilities and so on, but you can use it for a building like Kels. So we can bring quite a bit of money to the table for that. And then if we have some money in our own reserves, or if we have some donors who want to help us close the gap, but I'm pleased to say we're going to go out for bid in April for that project. And it's very promising. Jim, you worked in that building as well. It's very promising that we can get that project underway. So that's pretty exciting news. And even with all these federal dollars and the board's focus on deferred maintenance, that's all going to help us. And the board, the Kels, this won't surprise you, Kels is the worst rated building on our campus. Well, actually, that's a good thing, because that means it's going to be at the top of the list for any additional deferred maintenance money we can get, and we'll drive it into that building and get that project moved forward. So very, very exciting. It's about a $20 million project. So absolutely, Terry. And then many of you certainly use the ACTS library and use it for your students, or you might have just hung out there. We have really repurposed and transformed ACTS library over the last 5 or 6 years, and we're probably going to be about $7 million altogether as we wrap up Axe Library this summer. And I would encourage you to think about if you get kind of snowed in or rained in or cold weather, or maybe it's too hot and you're thinking, I'd just like to get out of the house, I'd go to Axe Library. Got the coffee grind there. You can get a cup of coffee, an iced tea, beautiful areas to sit and to read, surf the internet, whatever you want to do, bring your iPad. It's just a gorgeous area now. Looks over the football fields, kind of a neat view out to the south. It's a transformed space from thousands and thousands of items that we've collected or maintained over the years that have been culled to a pretty small amount of material that we maintain on a regular basis, but all kinds of access to digital materials and all kinds of access to meeting areas and gathering spaces. It's just really a nice space. So I'd encourage you to think about that. And that might be something you've never thought about, but it could be a pretty neat hangout space for you. Not as neat as the donut shop maybe, but the information there is more accurate, I would argue, than the donut shop. And I'm not playing favorites as to which one I'm pointing at. So every once in a while, somebody will say they heard something and I'd say, where'd you hear that? Well, at the donut shop. Okay, let me clarify exactly what the truth is here. So now, I did this on purpose. So I just talked about $6 million simulation hospital, $20 million Kels College of Business, $6 to $7 million in Axe Library. See, I do that first, so then I can talk about athletics. Because if I talk about athletics first, you'd think, oh my gosh, we're just spending money on athletics. We're spending money on academic programs, right? But in athletics, we're going to spend quite a bit of money this summer on Carney Smith Stadium. Some of you would have season tickets and the seat backs, and the seat backs were red when we began, and they are all pink now. And we're going to replace all those seat backs. We're going to take all the bleachers off and repair and seal all of that concrete. There's steps that are broken and in disrepair. It just doesn't look very good at all. So we're going to do quite a bit of work over there, and that's going to add to the new Jungletron, the new turf. And so we've got some private support helping us get this done, and a little bit of our reserves as well to move that forward. So that's going to really look new and improved. And of course, we have I think a new and improved football team with our new head coach, which we're very excited about. And we're excited to see him hit the field in a beautiful new Carney Smith Stadium with the renovations. And then John Lance Arena. I think that Delwyn Davis is a big fan of our volleyball team. And our volleyball team starts playing in September. And I don't know if you know this, but in Kansas in September, it can really be hot. Well, believe it or not, we have a donor who stepped up, and he's going to help us air condition and put in a new heating system in John Lance Arena. And I'm really excited about this because I like technology. We're going to have a great big video board. This is almost a $2 million project funded by one couple. And it's a couple who met on our campus, fell in love on this campus, and 50 some years later, they're married, still married, and he's had a great business, and just very exciting that we're going to make that happen. We'll probably also have new scores tables and new electronic signboards on those scores tables as well. So we're really going to be able to light that place up. And yes, Ellen will probably sell a few ads on that video board. So that's kind of irritates some people, but you got to remember, you got to have a little revenue to make this all work. So I hope people will accept some of that, but we'll be able to do replays. Troy Como and his group, they do a great job. I'll come back to you, Ellen, I promise. I remember that time you wouldn't let me speak in class. I'm just kidding you. But it's an exciting project. There's just no doubt about it. So John Lance Arena updates. I mean, if you haven't been in the Plaster Center, and if you haven't seen the interior work we've done with the weed, we've made huge steps forward. So I'm about done. So deferred maintenance, I mentioned the library. We'll continue to work on things as exciting as steam tunnels and electrical switch gears and safety things that we do across campus. We got a really good team of people that look at those things, and I'm really proud of what they do. And when legislators come to this campus or others, I want them to see clean, repaired, everything's working. And I think we're doing a nice job of that, but we still have a backlog that we've got to stay after. I want to talk about athletics for just a minute. And that is, we played football this fall. 11 teams at the Division II level played football this past fall. There's 160 some teams that play football, but only 11 could figure out how to play. We played 4 games, and one Saturday we were the only team that played, and one Saturday there was 2 of us that played. Pretty cool. Now you're wondering, how could there just be one Division II team playing on a Saturday? We didn't play ourselves. We played an FCS school. So really excited about where that program is going. Indoor track and field, Russ Jewett is quite the gem of a coach, and he continues to be successful. We had a national champion runner-up this last week in Birmingham. The men won the conference meet. He just continues to bring home conference championships, and we just compete at that national level. I think the men were 5th and the women were 10th at the national level. Tells you something. Volleyball is competing right now. They should have competed in the fall, but because of the pandemic, we moved that to a spring schedule. And then basketball, believe it or not, we had 616 games scheduled in basketball in the conference. We played every single one of them. We tested 4,500 student athletes in the basketball season across the conference, and we had less than a 1% infection rate. So those kids were motivated to play. They were careful. They bubbled up. And I think that's a pretty neat thing. So sports are important at Pitt State. We recognize that. We want to position ourselves to be competitive. And right now we've got some teams that aren't. And those are the things we'll work on to get to be competitive for the conference championships as well as national championships. Then I want to close with just a personal note. Some of you know this, but I bought a house. Kathy and I bought a house in town. So Bill Ivey is going, I wonder what that means. Well, it's pretty clear that one of these days I will not be president of Pittsburg State University, right? I mean, it's just a fact. And I did learn this over in mathematics, that every time I'm introduced as the 9th president of Pittsburg State University, yeah, you might think, well, there's 8 others, but you can also think there will be a 10th. That's just how it works. I'm a steward of this place and of this time. And I understand that. And I think I've operated in a way that says I'm interested in the long term, serving Pittsburg State University, but know that there's a moment I'll be here and there's a moment that I won't be. So, Dr. Bryant, who's been a longtime friend and mentor to me, he said, whenever you get ready to retire, don't just retire and then say, oh, I need a house. Get out in front of that. Find your house, do what you want with it, and then you can have some time to, make sure you got some choices. Because in Pittsburg, Kansas, the housing market is not, there's not lots of choices. So I went to school on what Dr. Bryant said, and so he has always offered me good advice. So this last summer we bought a house, and of all things, we bought the house owned by the president of the hospital, Randy Kaysen. Randy and Susan lived there. And when I leased a house, some of you may remember this, before the Crossland house was finished, I lived in a house that was owned by the previous president of Via Christi, as he was leaving town. So I'm not sure what it is about university presidents and hospital presidents' houses. But I think we've employed every subcontractor in the region to go into that house and do something. So it was a nice house to begin with, but we were going to put our own stamp on it. And, our kids live in Olathe and they spend a lot of time with us. In fact, they're here all week with us right now. And so this is a house where we can have them and host them and have great memories with them. So what I've said to the campus, because, once you buy a house, everybody goes, well, he's going to do something. Because the Regents really expect me to live on the campus. And I do live in a beautiful home, Crossland House. So I've told people on campus that, hey, my house will be finished this summer. We'll probably relocate sometime around then. I'm not retiring this summer. I'm good through summer of 22, but beyond that, don't count on me. So that's about as clear as I can make that. Now, if something crazy goes on with the stock market or whatever, maybe I may have a change of plans, but right now that's what I've said to people. And I've led my whole time here in a very transparent way, authentic way. And so I don't have any secrets. I live in a house with a lot of windows and I'm a very public person. So I was out walking last night doing my exercising, walking down the street, John, they're on Homer and a couple I know very, very well, probably known them 30 years, drive by at the convertible and the top was up, but they rolled down the windows and they said, "When are you retiring?" It's like, my gosh, I'm just out exercising. What's the story here? Are you in a hurry? And for me to do that. So it's kind of an interesting moment. But I think 3 or 4 people yesterday just talked to me about that. So, you know, it is what it is. And I remember Dr. Brian on his last day of work. My gosh, I had to chase him out of the office because he was just here to the very last moment and cared about this place to the last moment. And he still does. And I think that's a great role model. And I think you know about my work ethic. So I'm going to get it done to the very last moment. And my job is to leave things in great shape. And because of people like you who helped me get to this spot by teaching me and by encouraging me and supporting me, and some of you certainly are good donors for us and contributed financially, I am where I am, and hopefully we've had a good run. And I appreciate what you all have done and your encouragement that you've offered me. So with that, John, that's kind of long-winded. Trying to think, oh my gosh, that was really long-winded. But that's a pretty good look at where we are, John. And that one's got a question. I know he does.
Yeah, an observation and then a question.
Okay.
As you observed, since you mentioned volleyball, there are sports on campus other than football and basketball.
Yes.
Last weekend, I was watching softball. We were playing Minnesota Duluth, and I was talking with some parents from there. And they said, boy, this community really supports this institution. We drove downtown and said there's Pitt State signs everywhere. They couldn't believe it.
We're very fortunate.
The question is, where's this video board going to be in Weed so that everybody can see it? Yeah.
It'll be on the west end.
Yeah.
You know where those temporary bleachers are in the west end?
Yeah.
It'll hang back behind them, and it'll be right behind where the stage is for commencement. So those of you who, and many of you in this call, sweated it out in May commencements, don't have to worry about that. And we used to rent video equipment. We'd show the bill. You probably started that. We'd rent a big screen and video equipment. Everything will be broadcast up on that big screen. And then Elwin, if you're sitting in your seats on which side do you sit on? The north side?
Okay.
There will be a scoreboard, just kind of time and score on the south side. And then vice versa. If you're sitting on the south, there'll be a smaller version, and we'll take the scoreboard down from the center of the court. So pretty exciting step forward. The idea is to always keep moving forward and keep improving. That was the easiest question you've ever asked me in a session like this.
But there's got to be some other questions out there, I would suspect.
What about the College of Education?
Well,
What's happening?
a couple of things. One is exercise science, of course, which is next to the department, you know, the group that you worked with in the rec therapy, but they're doing very well, continue to do very well. Their graduate program is doing well. I think teacher ed overall, trying to think if anybody here was a K-12 teacher, and I don't know, Ed might have done some of that, but K-12 overall has had less interest. I think across the country there for a while, teacher education majors were down like 15, 17%.
Wow.
Some of that was driven by the economics of the situation, you know, starting salaries. You know, there was a time when, I'm not stereotyping, but there was a time when our female students would think about, we only have a couple of choices, nursing or teaching. And nursing salaries were similar to teaching salaries. They're not now. Nursing salaries have really accelerated, even with signing bonuses, and that's not the case on the teaching side. So there's just been a little bit of a depressed interest in teacher ed, and that's not a good thing, and particularly in the STEM area. So, but we have a new chair. I don't think we've announced it publicly, but there will be a new chair of the department. You know, teaching and leadership is all one department. And certainly Jim Truelove's done a nice job as the dean. He's been there a couple of years now. So that's great folks. They love their teaching and they love this place. There's no doubt about that. And it's a great group over there. So Chuck, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time.
It has been a while. I was thinking about that, and it's been, well, in June is when we, 9 years ago is when we moved here to Ojai. And we finally gotten some rain. You guys are going to get another storm, I think, because we had one yesterday.
We've had more rain than you can shake a stick at. I'm surprised Jon Bartlow could get to work today with all the rain we've had. Is the water okay out there?
I had to turn around yesterday.
Did you?
Wow.
That way. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, gather some of it and send it here.
Yeah.
We're in a drought for 7 years.
Okay. No, it's the monsoon season here. So what
Thank
else?
you.
Anything
I
else?
have
Yeah.
a couple questions.
Yeah.
First of all, as you said, we hope that the campus looks more normal in the fall. Do you have any indication how enrollment on campus enrollment is going for the fall
Just
at this
right,
point?
right now, pre-enrollment doesn't start for another couple of weeks, so we don't know about returning students. But right now, I think everybody across the country is nervous about 0-hour freshmen. What kind of numbers do we have? I think our numbers are applications interest is pretty high, but we waived the application fee. So, an apples to apple comparison is going to be hard to make right now. I just, in the fall, I think in the fall, as we entered early August, we were down 5 or 6%. And then by the time school started, we were down 3.3%. It was a lot of late decisions, and I think the uncertainty has driven that.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things we've seen a difference, I don't think anybody here worked in housing, but we've converted our housing operations to more single rooms. Mm-hmm. And that seems to be a real plus within all this. And I mentioned earlier, housing numbers, Diane, is something we would track to see about interest, and they're running about like they were last fall. But we certainly have housing vacancies right now. We don't need to be adding any housing. But what we've done is change the capacity a little bit by offering more singles, and we're pricing everything on singles. And if you go to a double, then you actually get a discount.
Okay. Well, and I think singles are a good thing.
Yeah,
because I think our students are used to being in single rooms. So, and I don't think they worry, or their parents worry about paying the difference, because it's a little more secure for them. Then my other question is, I was thrilled to see that the health department offered the staff and faculty at PSU the opportunity to get the vaccine. I think that's fantastic. I think we're way ahead in this county. Have to give them a lot of credit. Do you think there will be the opportunity for our students to receive the vaccine if they would like one before they leave campus this spring? I think that's very important. If we can do it.
I agree, and returning this fall, we'd really prefer they have it. The student body leaders I met with yesterday, as I mentioned, they had gone out and gotten it. Both of them had, and one of them, I asked the president of the student body, Sumner Mackey, I said, "What do you think the interest is across the student body, across your peers?" He said he thinks it's 50-50. The vice president, Kadra, said, "I think it depends on how convenient it is."
Yeah,
but they're probably not going to go out of their way to get it. And that really speaks to your question. If we have it on campus, we're going to get a lot more interest. Mm-hmm. If we say you got to go down to community health, not so. We've had one student said the other day, "Well, I'm not going to do it until I can get the Johnson & Johnson because it's just one." It's like, really? You're avoiding possible death, Can you not sign up for 2 shots? I mean, really, or maybe harming your grandparents or your parents. So, it's a generation that's really been looked after and taken care of well. Certainly, I would say it that way. I won't use the word spoiled. But I don't know. The governor just yesterday announced basically opening it up to everybody. Mm-hmm. It starts on Monday, I think. That's going to change things. So I think that's something we'll be talking about even Monday at our leadership meeting, I would guess, to say, how can we facilitate our students having access? And that's a good point to make before they go home, because I actually thought the other way before they come back. But before they go home is a good idea, because they're going to be interacting with their parents again and other relatives, who might be at risk. The level of interest, though, across the country is still a concern in the vaccines. Not everybody's saying, "I can't wait to get a vaccine." And that's going to be harmful overall to getting this under control. So, but good questions. Thanks, Diane. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Dr. Scott, one question that came in on the chat from Ed May is if you could give us an update on liberal arts and sciences, which is...
on the arts side, certainly we've been held up because, just think about the Bicknell Center, our art galleries, and the things we've built that would bring people together to allow performances and share our interest in the arts, solo and chamber series, and so on. Those have really gotten sidelined by this. Susan Marchant recently asked, when students do their recitals, can their parents come? Oh my gosh. You know, they're Zooming those things. Well, we're starting to relax that. We said the other day, yes, of course they can do that. So you just think about even the art galleries and some of the things are just so used to doing, really were restricted in what we could do. So that's been a challenge. We have had, you know, in arts and sciences, Ed May, I think there's 3 or 4 chairs that are retiring. So we're going to have a real change in leadership there. You're probably going to see a little bit more consolidation of departments over time as these things play out. You know, Dwayne Whitback, who is home economics, I can't believe I said that, Family Consumer Science chair for a number of years. He's also chairing the department upstairs that has history and sociology and philosophy in it. He'll be retiring. He's just been a great team player. So there's going to be some real changes in terms of the leadership. And, you know, it's just a fact that our faculty want to be faculty generally. They're not interested necessarily in being a chair. And so, you know, Ellen was, I'm trying to think of others on the call were chairs at one time, but that's not necessarily their aspirations. Their aspirations are to do the research, do the writing, you know, teach the classes and really pay attention to that. And the chair's role is a complicated role. I mean, it really is managing a group of faculty and the curriculum and the various pressures and demands you have. So I think there's a little bit of a concern right now of where do we go to get those leaders, and will there be people within those departments that say, yeah, I want to do that. I'll step up and do that. Our pre-med program over in the sciences is doing extremely well, of course, continues to. Phil Scott, my son, had a little bit of surgery recently, and of course, who did it? A Pitt State pre-med grad, a KU med grad, Dr. Baker over at Freeman. So those graduates out of nursing, those graduates out of our pre-med program, pre-dental, pre-professional, they're all over doing some really, really good work and been very, very successful. One of the things we're going to do in the sciences is those labs are really dated now. And we're going to do a model restoration, rehabilitation of some labs over in Heckert Wells. And so that's going to be pretty exciting, where we just gut a lab and rebuild it. The problem we have is they're so busy, they're so used, it's hard to take them offline very long. But that's kind of the next one of our R&R projects that will be coming. So some good work going on there, but probably a little bit of concern about just the turnover in leadership and how do we make sure those programs continue to move on successfully and the faculty get the kind of support, you know, that they would need.
Thank you, Dr. Scott.
You're muted, Don. Don, you're muted. Can you unmute him, John?
Yes.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
Related to the healthcare, as most of the people in this community are aware, community health clinic has expanded a great deal and has accumulated some funds to even expand further, and evolving into the health provider network, training them. Is the university collaborating with them on any of their projects related to educating some of their services?
Yeah, one of the important things that we can do is to help provide leadership and participate in the governance of entities within the community, whether it's the chamber or Kathleen Flannery, of course, is on the Via Christi board, governing board, and Sean Nacarado is on the governing board for a community health center. And so that gives us some really good connections to not just affect policies or outcomes, but also then learn about what are the initiatives and what's going on. I don't know that anybody can keep up with Krista Postag.
No.
She's got an idea a minute, and she can make it happen as well. And you just kind of have to hang on as she does that. But I know the area you're talking about that's probably most critical right now is just the training of new doctors and the residency programs that she's putting in place. I think they've acquired a building down by the hospital. And they've got big plans for that. And that certainly could be a nice conduit for our students who want to go to KU Med, but might want to return to this area to do their residencies or whatever additional training they're going to do. But I would say Virginia Ryder and others would be very, very connected to that. And of course, your successor, Kathleen Sandness, is very connected to them as well. Because of the pandemic, we had strong relationships before, but the pandemic has caused us to have weekly meetings with these groups, and it's really just strengthened the relationship. So I think we've got even more opportunities going forward. So some very, very good things happening in community health. And really, it's not Pitt State. It's not because we're here that we got our faculty and staff vaccinated. It's because community health is here. Washburn doesn't have that in their backyard. Hayes doesn't have that in their backyard, and so on. So we benefited from that. And we've got a great relationship with them that we've nurtured over time. And Sean Nacarado, again, led that, along with Abby Fern. So it's a group we want to be connected with. You're absolutely right.
Other questions for Dr. Scott?
Well, John, thanks for having me. This is, I know you probably hear me say this other places, but this is one of my favorite groups, I'm just telling you. And at one point, I really didn't think I'd be one of you. My goal is to be one of you at some point, right? I gotta, at some point, as I said, I won't be doing this, and I'll be sitting on the screen and listening to maybe Jon Bartlow giving the update. So you never know. I'll make John blush right there. John's very capable, and John's not finished at Pitt State, I would say. It is so good to see all of you. Seriously, just it really means a lot to me that you'd connect, and really your personal support of me, it matters, and it's good for me. Ellen Davis's puns are not good for me, but other than that, everything else is all good. So, John, I'm going to sign off. Jamie's going to put me back to work on something else, I bet. Okay.
Thanks for your time, Dr. Scott, and hopefully we can get one more of these in person before you switch to the other side.
Yep. Okay. All right. Thank you all. See you.
Thank you.
Dr. Scott. Appreciate it.
Yes, we're done.
Well, everyone, you're stuck with me now, so everybody's going to start tuning out here. I told you Dr. Scott was the main course, but anyway, we always appreciate his time and his insightful updates. We're so lucky to have someone as president who has served this institution for over 30 years and has the type of insight and knowledge about the culture of Pittsburg State. I think we're very, very lucky in that regard. And similar to what Dr. Scott said, this is certainly one of my favorite events as well. I certainly prefer to see everyone in person, but so many individuals and faces on this call who are people who were here when I was in college, and people who were kind to me and helpful to me, and had the pleasure of working with Diane in the alumni office when I first came back to Pitt State. So in our alumni director emeritus, Dr. Ken Bateman, is on. Haven't seen Ken in person for a year. So thank you to all of you for being here this morning. We truly appreciate your support. And I always like to say, when I'm out talking to our alumni, I am 100% confident that this university would not be the place it is without our wonderful faculty, staff, retirees, and our alumni. And I know many of you on this call are alumni as well. So thank you. Just very briefly, I mean, obviously, as you can imagine, a huge part of what our office does is events, and the planning of events, and the putting on of events, and bringing people together. And over the course of this year, we just have not been able to safely do that. And I think for people like myself and Danielle and Stephanie, who really thrive off of being around our alumni, we love it, we enjoy it, that's why we do this job. It's been tough. It's been tough, but I am proud that I think we've been very innovative. We have continued to host virtual alumni gatherings almost every week. And much like this event, there are some silver linings because we're able to engage individuals that we weren't able to engage in the past. So, Pawan was on the call earlier, Dr. Cahal, we have Chuck's Killingsworth is on from far away. These are folks that we would not be able to have breakfast with at the Crossland House. And so I'm excited that you were able to join us in this capacity. And we're finding that with our virtual guerrilla gatherings as well. We've seen that about 40 to 50% of the individuals who have signed up for these events are people who have never engaged with us before, which is really exciting. And so with these virtual events, we're able to focus on very specific aspects of the campus. For instance, last week we had a virtual gathering that specifically focused on the biology department. This evening we have one that will specifically focus on military science. And so it's nice to be able to go a little bit more in depth in talking about these programs that some of our alumni are very interested in hearing about. So, and I know that after this meeting, we'll send a follow-up out, and Danielle does a wonderful job of including links to these virtual gatherings that we have coming up in the future. So we certainly invite you to join us for some of those if you're able. The other thing that we've done at homecoming, of course, that's a time where we just love seeing all of our alumni and constituents. We weren't able to see those folks. So Stephanie and Danielle worked so hard, and we sent out pride packs, 200 pride packs full of Pitt State goodies mailed to your doorstep. So folks could put out their Pitt State sign and feel a little bit of the Pitt State pride and the love from the university, even though they weren't able to be with us, or even though they weren't able to see us. So we were excited to be able to do that. And then we've been doing something called the Taste of Home. You all might be aware how crazy our alumni are about Southeast Kansas fried chicken. And we had a brainstorm. I don't remember whose idea it was. I think it might have been Danielle's idea, where we said, you know what, Chicken Annie's, they're so great for us to work with. Maybe if we asked them, they would help us deliver fried chicken to our alumni in those areas that are close enough that we can drive out to. And so we have been, we've been on the fried chicken train, and we've been taking fried chicken to Tulsa and Kansas City and Wichita and Northwest Arkansas, and we're doing Topeka and Springfield in addition to those places this coming spring. I think we delivered like 350 chicken dinners to Kansas City. And it was touching. It felt so good because we're handing out these prepackaged meals. We did it all very safely. We had our mask on. We're handing out these prepackaged meals, and you would have thought we were handing out $100 bills. I mean, people were just tickled to death, I think, to be seen and to see us, and of course, to get that fried chicken. So we'll do that again this spring as well. And it's not the same as a guerrilla gathering, but it's nice to be able to see our alumni and constituents eye to eye, even though we can only see half of their faces. So those are some of the innovative things that we've been doing. And we know the fall is going to be different than this past fall, but I think we also know that it probably won't be completely like the fall of 2019 was either. But we're rolling with it as best we can. We've had great leadership here at the university from Dr. Scott and from my boss, Kathleen Flannery. And we're just doing the best we can to keep our alumni and constituents engaged with the university. And so we certainly appreciate your time being here today. So any questions for me before we give some Pitt State goodies away? I figured Elwin would have some sort of tough question for me, but that's okay. Okay, so Danielle, I'm going to turn it over to her. And Danielle is our assistant director, Pitt State grad 2 times over. She's got some goodies to give away. And so we're going to draw some names, and we'll drop these in the mail to you. And if you're in town and you would prefer to stop by, that's fine too. Otherwise, we'll drop it in the mail to you. Danielle?
All right. Hello, everyone. We do this a lot for our guerrilla gatherings too. And at the end, we always say, this is really the moment you've all been waiting for. This is what you tuned in for, right? Okay, so we'll start. We have a coaster set with the Champions Plaza Gorilla on it. And that will go to Donita Barone.
Congratulations.
And then we have a second set. This will go to Elwin and Karen.
You put that coffee mug on there, guys.
That's right.
Doc, will that a half a cup?
Yes.
That help a half a cup? Yeah.
I think it will work. I think it will work. We have a once a gorilla, always a gorilla koozie, and that will go to Charles. And let's see here. We have a license plate frame, an alumni license plate frame. And this will go to Diane. And we have, this is a yard sign, and we'll send the stakes with it. This was one of our items that was in our pride packs from homecoming. So we're still sending them all over. And this will go to Dawn. Let's see here. We have a Pitt State cup, and one will go to Paul Smith, and another will go to James Harris. We have this Pitt State cutting board, and this will go to Ed May.
Hey, congrats.
We have a Pitt State cooler bag, and this will go to Barbara. Running out of space on my desk to put this stuff. And then last but not least, we have this really nice Pitt State throw blanket, and that will go to Bob and Joan.
All right.
Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you, Danielle. One other quick update I wanted to give you guys, because this is something we're really excited about. Not sure how many of you are in Oklahoma. I know that Bill is down in Oklahoma, but we were able to launch a Pitt State, official Pitt State plate in the state of Oklahoma. And so that was all happening kind of during the beginning of the pandemic. It became official, I think, the end of April in 2020, and those plates have just started getting on the road. I think maybe in September, October is when they first started getting on the road in Oklahoma. So Bill, we hope you see lots of Pitt State plates down there. You know, I always say not only is it wonderful PR for the university we love, but it's raising scholarship dollars. And you know, I think last year we gave out close to $70,000 in alumni legacy scholarships to new incoming students. And so you all know how important those scholarship dollars are when students are making decisions. So this is a program that we're really excited about, and we were very excited to get it launched in Oklahoma. It took a while. So that is, I think, it as far as the updates that we have, but certainly we'd invite you all to stay in touch if there's anything at all that our office can do for you. Even if we don't know the answer, we will make sure that we find the answer for you. So thanks for your support, and we hope that you all remain healthy and well in the year to come. Now, I think there's one thing we have to do though, right? We all need to say something together.
Before we say that, John, can I say thank you to you and your staff for doing such a great job for Pitt State?
Here, here.
Great.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Diane. We appreciate it. And Diane knows as much as anyone what this office does. She served many years here, so appreciate that very much, Diane. I think I can speak for Danielle and Stephanie to say we feel lucky to be in this role. So thank you. Thank you. So I almost forgot, we have to end our meeting saying this special saying. You guys know how it goes. It's
Once a gorilla, always a gorilla.
Always a gorilla.
once a gorilla, always a gorilla.
Always a gorilla.
Hang over me. All right, friends. Have a great day. Stay
You
safe.
too.
Enjoy that
Thank
coffee.
you.
Think the best. Bye-bye.